my name's Matt. I'm CEO of Total Solutions, so just jump right in. Who am I? Among other things, I'm an attorney. I play hockey. I like to go outdoors a lot, whether that's camp, hike, fish. I like to wander wherever, you name it, I'm there. If I haven't been there, I'd like to go. So that's a little profile of me. But what is Total Solutions? So this is a small company. We actually are over in Brighton, so not too far away. It's a family company. We're a C corporation, closely held, so all the stock is actually owned by my parents. So really, really small family gig. That's how I got the job, if anybody's wondering, obviously. And we work primarily within the Microsoft stack. So as it was mentioned, we're a Microsoft consulting firm. You can peel that back, and that can mean a lot of different things, right? So we'll kind of get into that, and really what my goal is today is to talk about just some general advice on as you're starting your career in IT, what kind of some common pitfalls, getting that first job, some little tips and tricks for that. And as you kind of continue onward in your career, some things that I actually polled our company. We're about 20 people, a little bit less than 20 people, so not very big. I sent an email out and said, you know, if you could tell anybody that was a newbie in IT, what would one thing that you wish somebody had told you before I started? And I got various responses, so I've incorporated that sort of stuff into here as well. But does anybody know what the Microsoft stack, what that means, per se? So that's just the various technologies that Microsoft uses to build Windows, I guess is the best way to think about it, and other technologies on top of that. So it's a set of programming languages, certain types of databases that they use, and we work primarily within those technologies. So it's a whole range of services, consulting services and IT development services as well. So what do we actually do? That's kind of what the breakdown looks like from a work perspective. So I don't expect you to know what these things are. Records management, who knows what that is, right? I don't even know what that is, to be honest. Training and strategic consulting, I think that's a little more, just in the name implies what that actually is. Administration is more server-type administration activities. Migrations, so has anybody actually heard of SharePoint before? Not expecting you to have. SharePoint, as Mike said, is a collaboration platform. So it's either hosted on servers within an organization. WCC might use SharePoint for all I know. If you do, we got some services for you if you're looking for help. But so migrations, for example, moving between different platforms. There's a 2006 version, there's a 2010 version, there's a 2013 version, the 2016 version coming out, helping clients move between those various versions of the software. So we do all sorts of stuff. At the end of the day, the company named Total Solutions, we try to solve problems for people, right? Solve technology problems. We support their implementations once they actually have them up and running. We do all sorts of fun things with technology. But I'm here specifically today to talk to you guys about employment, right? So when you're thinking about your career, what do we as employers look for? And truthfully, to answer any questions that you guys might have. Feel free to interrupt me at any time while I'm talking here. I didn't make this super interactive. I wish it would have been a little bit more interactive. I like having the kind of people talk back and forth. I think it's a little bit more engaging. So if you don't know what something is up here, just raise your hand, ask me, say, hey, I don't know what that means, and I'm happy to talk about it a little bit. So first thing I wanted to talk about was just a little bit on notes on the IT market, okay? So does anybody know how old the IT market is? Any guesses?
Older than me.
Older than you? It depends on how you count, right? So if you define IT with the keyword computers, it's not very old. 1958 is when the word information technology was first coined in Harvard Business Review. I put 3000 BC. That's the first time that humans actually started writing things down, so transmitting data back and forth. But the definition of information technology is using computers to do stuff with data, information within the context of a business, enterprise, and organization, right? So you're using data, manipulating it to make yourself more efficient, to accomplish things. So the key point here is the IT market is not very old. 1958 was not that long ago, right? When you compare it to things like agriculture or other parts of the economy that have been along for a really, really, really long time. And I think the really important part is that the IT market has exploded since its inception in 1958, right? So ignore the fact that it says negative 4.9% over here. That's due to the currency stuff. That's why it's a negative growth number. Really, this year you're going to see another 2.5% growth in IT spending, specifically on information technology across the globe. And if you just look at that little slice right here, this is IT services right here in 2016. And there's going to be over $1 trillion spent on IT services like ourselves in 2016 across the globe, right? That's a lot of money. That's a lot of money. And that's not just Microsoft consulting. That's everything from telecommunications to cloud computing, data centers around here as well. So it's a big business, and it's grown up really, really quickly. Another important thing to think about when you're kind of confronting the IT market in general is what's called accelerating change. So you might not be able to read these too well. These are basically the same graph. One is accelerating growth in technology. I'm kind of using technology and IT interchangeably here, right? So I understand that I'm doing that. That's not technically, that's not the way it works, but you can see that this is the printing press, telescope. We've got telephone, car, man on the moon, and now you got Windows right here, DVDs, hybrid cars, Google, Facebook, 3D chips, right? And the point is that technology is changing and advancing itself faster every day. It's kind of ridiculous. And if you look at the other graph, which is basically the same, that is our perspective on technology over the past 50 years. How much more advanced are we with technology today than we were yesterday, right? So you put all this stuff together, what does it really mean? In a very, very short amount of time, within one person's lifetime, IT's had an enormous impact in terms of how much money is getting spent on it, in terms of what it's doing for people, and it changes really, really fast as well. So the demand for people to work in IT it's already huge, and it's just going to get bigger, right? And I kind of went through 4 different just statements here as to what it means to work in IT. I think these are kind of the various levels of advancement that you can go with your career in IT, right? One is I understand IT. I mean, there's a lot of people out there that just don't even want to touch a computer still, right? I mean, I know several of them myself. My mother is one of them. I can use IT, so not just I kind of know what this stuff is, but I can actually use it, do things with it, to where you can solve problems with IT, specifically other people's problems with information technology. And then also, even further, is you invent new IT, kind of build new systems, new platforms, that sort of thing. Bottom line is it's a great place to find employment. There's also has a unique set of challenges for employees because of some of these things that I just talked about, right? When stuff changes really fast, it's really easy for the rug to just get yanked out from underneath you. I'll talk about this again later a little bit. If you are really advanced in a particular programming language, for example, and that language becomes obsolete, you're kind of SOL a little bit, right? So there's some key things that when you're thinking about to kind of diversify your assets and reduce your risk a little bit. But being in this class right now, just being in the front end of your career, if you're looking at a career in IT, I think that's an excellent position. I myself did not plan to be in IT. I planned on being a lawyer, and here I am. And that happened very, very quickly, and I'm very, very happy with that decision. So that's kind of the bottom line with the market. One final note here, though, that I like to emphasize. Information technology is not a computer-centric job. At least that's not the way it's trending. People tend to think about IT as being, oh, I want to work with a computer, I talk to a computer, I use a computer to do stuff. It's people-centric. At least that's the people that make the most money in IT these days. You need to be able to talk to people, figure out what their problems are, talk to other people who know about the solutions, connect them up together, and get something working such that it actually gets something done for somebody, right? So I think it's really important to note that really at the end of the day, you're working with people more than you're working with computers. Another keynote from corporations to consultants is that the industry is shifting a bit from the standard in-house IT job. It used to be at a corporation, you go to the IT guy or gal, and they would do everything, right? They'd do your networking, they'd install your operating system, they would solve your email problems. Since technology is advancing so quickly and things are becoming more and more advanced, it's almost impossible for any one person to manage it all for a company these days. So there's more and more outsourcing that's going on. More and more companies like ourselves that are springing up into existence around a particular niche of technology to say, hey, we can help in this specific area because the IT person at a mid-sized company, they have SharePoint, they have no idea what it is and no idea how to use it, so they have to call somebody like us. So there's a lot more consulting that's being done, and that's where you're seeing a lot of the jobs go as opposed to where formerly they might be in-house jobs. There's still plenty of in-house jobs, especially for the big companies that can afford to bring on that expertise onto staff. But if you look at the supply and the demand, there's more demand than there is supply right now, so that's causing a problem for corporations, but it's good for the consultants. So a couple tips on landing a job. First one that I had is never stop getting paper in terms of degrees, certifications. If you're going to work in IT, this is a lifelong thing that you're going to need to commit yourself to in terms of continuing education. Never be satisfied with what you learned. Always go ahead and learn something else, something new. And I would note that they don't all have to be official degrees or certifications. Those are good. I wanted to show you really fast. I pulled this up just while I was sitting here. This is the Microsoft certification tree, at least the latest version that I've seen. So you guys are right here, right? MTA, Windows and Infrastructure. These are MTAs. You can see there's a whole lot of certifications that you can get before you're down this line towards being a Microsoft Certified Solutions Expert, right? It's actually not that hard to advance down this path relatively quickly. I've had employees, hired a gentleman about 3 years ago. He was working as a chef at Cracker Barrel. He is now a Microsoft Certified Solutions Expert in SharePoint. It did not take him that long, so it can happen a lot faster than you think. And that's him doing these certifications in his spare time while he's working a full-time job. Yeah.
What's the name of that again?
This right here.
Yeah, chart.
This is I just Googled Microsoft certification track, and you can find it. There's various versions of it. Microsoft, this is just Microsoft, right? There's all sorts of stuff out there for programming languages or whatnot, or for Google or whatever, pick your technology. And Microsoft does change this on you a little bit, so it is always subject to change. But yeah, I would also emphasize there's a lot of free resources out there too that you don't have to pay for. Those are bonuses in my book. But another important point is to balance those certifications and those official, those kind of official pieces of paper that you know something with real life doing, right? There's always this tension between I studied it in a classroom and I did it in a standardized simulation, and I've done it out in the real world, right? This is really hard to do. I think it's really hard, especially for a beginner, to get practical hands-on experience outside of the classroom. But you want to try to start now. One way you can do so is to apply yourself outside the classroom just in your everyday life. So one thing that's a big differentiator for me when I'm going over resumes for somebody that might want to work for me is, I've got somebody who, I got two people, both of them took this course, for example, and they both got A's and they did all the labs and whatnot. And one of them then went and in their spare time built an application to help them keep track of, I don't know, the chores they have to do during a week or something. It can be something silly. I've had people who built stuff and I was like, did it work? No, it didn't work. But the fact that they even tried, that they're trying to apply their skills in their everyday lives demonstrates that they want to solve problems, that they're kind of creative, that they've got a passion for it. So that's something that you can do. Nobody's got to hire you to do this. I mean, show me a picture of that. I don't know if I'd hire you, but nonetheless, it still demonstrates ingenuity, right? That's one way you can kind of get that experience. Another is freelancing. Freelancing for free. Nobody likes to work for free. I did a number of free internships over the course of my career here before I kind of landed where I did. Again, that's something that not everybody can afford to do. Doesn't have to be free. It can be at a very low rate, but get on Craigslist, advertise yourself. If you're somebody who's new to web development, you say, hey, I'm a beginner JavaScript coder. Throw me a project that you want me to do and I'll do it for free or for $50 or whatever the case might be. Another great one is some charitable orgs and events. So there's some really cool events that they do. I think there's one that's done here at WCC actually. I'm trying to remember the name of it. Where I cannot remember the name of it for the life of me right now. But basically, programmers come of all shapes and sizes, super advanced, super beginner. They come for a weekend. They stay up all night and they write code for charitable organizations, right? And they build them websites and do all sorts of stuff for them. That's a great way to meet other people that are in the industry, get some experience, watch somebody do something that you don't quite know how to do yet. So those are good examples as well. And then obviously, family and friends. So in terms of getting some experience, those are just a couple tips. Get your foot in any door. So one thing that somebody told me a long time ago when I was freshman or first year of law school, they said, write down on a piece of paper what you're going to be doing in 10 years and go put it in a box and then come back in 10 years and I guarantee you're not going to be doing it, right? Same thing applies in IT. Be very, very open when you're looking for that first job to really just kind of get in a starting spot because that'll just trigger a cascade of events to where you'll move within a company to a different department, and you'll find out you're good at one thing, better at a second thing, and it's kind of a natural process. So don't be too fully concerned where, okay, I got a certification in web design, so I need to get a web designer job. Be open to all sorts of prospects out there. These are just some examples of web designer to a SQL database person, for salesperson to administrator. I just had a guy literally in December. He's been a sales guy for us for about 6 months, and he said, look, I'm not very good at sales. I want to try something else. And so we moved him over to kind of being an administrator, and he's doing well as far as I know. He hasn't said he's doing bad yet. So, so this is kind of it goes without saying a little bit, but I like to put this up here. IT is very relaxed in terms of your appearance, right? We have people that come in jeans, all sorts of haircuts, all sorts of different attitudes in the office. When you're getting your job, hold that back, right? Get your job first, then relax. Just kind of an important point. Web developer without a job, web developer without a job. It is very true. And then lastly, be prepared to say yes to things like slightly abnormal hours. Sometimes you have to do things on weekends, after hours, because people are actually using their systems during the day. Some travel for your job, some jobs travel more than others. And then again, deal with people every day, right? It's a human-centric business. Become a better people person if you want to work in IT, even if you're already good at it. So then this is kind of, so you've got your job, or your internship or whatever. Tips after you're there. What should you do to kind of further yourself and make yourself better and get a better job, or get a different job if you don't like the one you have? First thing is keep your head up and look around. This is a really sage piece of advice from a high-level guy within our company, is that you don't have to do this all the time, but learn. If you're working at a company and you're in the IT, you're doing something in IT, figure out what the heck your company does outside of IT, right? Go learn about what products they make, what services you do. Go talk to some salespeople, learn about their lives, learn about what the marketing folks have to do, the analysis and design team, the project managers. In general, the more knowledge you can accumulate about a business, and this isn't just with the business you work for, this would be your clients as well, right? So for us, we've got clients all over the map, right? Financial industry, automotive, you name it. The more we know about their business, the more we actually know about their process and their people and what they make, the more valuable we are to them, and that applies to you as individuals as well, right? Another piece of advice is learn how to sell. There's no such thing as a natural salesperson, at least not in my opinion. Sales is not easy. You have to practice at it. You got to learn, but you're gonna have to learn to sell yourself at a minimum, right? So you might as well start somewhere. If you have an opportunity at any job to participate in sales a little bit, if there is a sales branch at your job, I'd give it a go. I think it's a great lesson. The little bit of time that I spent in sales was hugely beneficial to me and to my career. So I think that's a good one. Soft skills matter. So this is a lot of you being new to the IT industry. There's a little bit of a reputation that folks in IT can get sometimes, which is that they've got bad attitudes. And it can be, and honestly, in my experience, it holds up in some instances, not in all instances. But having a good attitude is a huge value to yourself, to the people you work with, and to the company that employs you, right? I think a lot of it stems from the fact that there's always different ways to accomplish anything when it comes to IT, right? If I'm in Word, there's 7 different ways to bold the font, right? I can click bold, I can hit B, I can go into Control B. It's like you can do a bunch of different ways, and so when you have people competing to solve a problem, one person's method is usually going to get selected. That doesn't mean you're wrong, right? And people tend to take offense to that, like, hey, my method for solving this problem wasn't the one that got selected, so like I'm stupid or something like that, and they take offense to that. Don't take offense to it. Have a good attitude. Those soft skills are hugely important. Get comfortable being uncomfortable. How do you do anything? This is the questions people are going to ask you when you're working. How do you do this? I don't know. I have no idea, right? You get used to that, to questions that you don't know the answer to, and the all-time gotcha. How long is it going to take you? Or for me, how much is it going to cost? Right? I have no idea how much it's going to cost. You presented me with a problem. I'm not quite sure what the solution looks like yet. That's a situation that you'll get thrown into over and over and over again. So just get used to handling it, right? It's something that comes with practice. And it also be fearless a little bit. So you don't want to be misleading and say, well, okay, I don't know, it's going to take me 2 hours to do. when you have no idea. You can say, well, I think it'll take me, could take me 2 hours. If this happens, if that happens, it could take me 4, right? So you don't want to mislead people, but at the same time, you don't want to be scared just because you don't know the answer to the question. The difference between being an expert and a newbie at something is education, oftentimes self-education and experience. And you want to be best friends with Google. I was getting a ride in with another employee of ours the other day, and I was kind of talking with him about this presentation that was coming up. And he said, and I mentioned to him Google, and he said, yeah, if I didn't know how to Google, I'd be shit out of luck right now. You know? And it's true. So many times, even in our company, client asks a consultant at Total Solutions a question. They're going to try to speak intelligently about it and wait for the client to shut up, and then they're going to go Google it and be like, how do I do this? Because I have no idea, right? We deal with new problems every day. They're never exactly the same. Something's always a little bit different. Chances are somebody somewhere has run into the same problem elsewhere and they've put it on the internet. So you have to be an expert at mining the internet for information if you want to work in IT. Everybody does this. Everybody in the whole industry does this, right? And then kind of the last point that I want to make, and one that I want to talk a little bit about, is to strive to have a broad and deep skill set. So people say look like a T, right? You definitely want to build those pillars of technical expertise where where you are considered an expert or would be well respected within the industry. You know more than other people do, but you want to be able to speak intelligently about a lot of different things. This goes back to that continuous education thing as well. So it's good to pick a skill, a platform, or a technology to start with, especially, right? So if you gravitate towards a particular language in programming, for example, go ahead and jump into it. But employers are worried about this thing that I call the transitive nature of skilled people, right? If none of you have heard of SharePoint before, that doesn't mean I won't hire you. If you are good at something that is close to that, I will hire you because you're a skilled person even though you don't have the skill that I want, and I will train you in the skill that I need you to have. And employers think like that. So if you can demonstrate that you're skilled at A and they are hiring a job for B, there's no reason that you shouldn't apply for it and say, look, I can do B because I'm a skilled and versatile person. So that's kind of the vertical pillar. But then having that broad, versatile knowledge base, I think this is really, really, really key. Kind of for the client expectations things, people are going to throw stuff at you that if you've never heard of it before, it's kind of hard to BS about it a little bit if that's what you have to do. But just from a job security perspective, like I mentioned, a good example in our industry is that SharePoint is this platform that Microsoft built that is hosted in servers on-premise. At least it was for a long time, right? So anybody know what an intranet is? Yeah? No? Yes? You guys probably logged on your intranet for WCC, right? So you guys have a portal that you log on to maybe to view your grades or to submit homework or something like that, right? It's an intranet platform. SharePoint builds those. You can use that as a tool to build those intranet platforms. And it's hosted in a server in WCC's data center. At least it was. About 2 years ago, Microsoft made a huge investment in cloud technologies, and now all the rage is people are going to SharePoint Online, right? So no longer do you need to have a server and host it on your server. Microsoft will host it for you. So I've got 2 or 3 people who, as of 2015, the amount of work that they had doing high-level server administration changed. And it changed really, really quickly. And they haven't lost their jobs by any stretch of the matter, but it's just an example of a shift within the industry where they need to backfill with other things now. They need to continue to grow in another area. So you never rest on your laurels, say, hey, I'm an expert at this, I've made it, look at me, it's all good. That's just a disaster waiting to happen for you in terms of your own job security, right? But these are just an example of some things, different programming syntaxes, knowing what an if-then statement is, understanding what databases are, what a relational database is, user experience, user interface, cloud computing, waterfall, Scrum, Agile work methods. These are just some examples of things that you should know about, right? You don't necessarily have to be able to do all these. You don't necessarily have to know how to program. You don't have to know how to design a relational database. You don't necessarily need to know how to build a user interface. Don't need to manage cloud computers, and you don't need to do Scrum. But if somebody throws that out there in conversation, you want to be able to intelligently talk about it and say, I know what you're talking about. I can at least have a conversation with you. And then really quickly, one thing I wanted to give to you guys. This is by no means finalized, but this is something we I'll just go to this. I had printed it out because you can't really read it up here. This is a skills matrix that we did. I'm just going to pass this around really quick. This is a skills matrix that we did actually a couple weeks ago. We got to start on this. So let's see here. I'll pass it out first. So this is just for our company. Here, thank you. This is just for our company. It's not really I don't know that it would really be applicable across the industry per se. Some things would be, but what's really interesting is some of the stuff that shows up on here. I didn't necessarily make this. My old man made it. He's still at the company, still a pain in my butt, and still coming up with great ideas like this. But this is the sort of thing that we are actually going to refine and use for guiding our own employees in terms of their skill development in the coming years, right? It's just kind of interesting. So if you look at, for example, under project, number 2 there where it says problem solving, right? Level 1, find a root cause. Level 2, you can also put I can in front of these, right? I can research options to solve the problem. Number 3, I can articulate the best options for solving the problem. Level 4, I can justify operational change based on the problem you've presented. And that was level 4. And level 5, I can justify organizational change, right? Just the different progress you can make, and being at each of those different skill levels absolutely has a different level of value to the employer.
Do you use this like in a review?
We came up with this about literally 2 weeks ago, so it is version 1, very, very fresh. We haven't used it. This is actually the first place that I have used it, so we haven't used it anywhere yet technically. But it's just kind of into the mind of an employee. My dad's been doing this for a long time, right? Another one, look at knowledge, right? Top one on knowledge. Some of this stuff is too weird, but it's true. STEM, so science, technology, engineering, and maths. Active watcher of science specials, right? Minor in math or science, bachelor's of science in math, science, engineering, master's, PhD, right? So just these are the things that jump out at an employer when they're looking at your resume. And you don't have to have a PhD in math. You don't have to have a PhD in anything. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that if you're looking at, you've got some spare time, invest your time in these sorts of things, in math, in science, in technology. Even if it's not necessarily computers, those are the things that relate to the work that we do. And it's the sort of stuff that we kind of look for. So you can take this, read through it. I don't know that the technical the technical box will be all that useful to you. SP stands for SharePoint. BU stands for Business Unit. There's 2 of the acronyms on here that you might have trouble with. OOTB stands for Out of the Box, which is different from custom application development, right? Custom computer programming, using a product off the shelf and doing things with it. So, read through it. If it's useful to you, great. If not, well, my apologies, but I think it'll be useful for you, and it's just kind of a glimpse into the mind of an employer. So that's really all I had for you guys today, and I kind of wanted to open it up to any questions that you guys might have for me.
So Matt, if any of these students eventually, maybe not today, and maybe not at the end of this class, but maybe down the road are interested in a position with you, what does that look like, and how do you go about hiring students?
That's a good question. So we, in terms of positions that we have, they range from technical to more business side positions, right? So if you could take the jobs that we have and kind of encapsulate them into job roles. You could say project manager is a job, right? Business analyst is a job. SharePoint administrator is a job. Computer programmer is a job, right? And then there's various levels within each of those jobs. But it's interesting for our company because we went through a period where a lot of our hiring was done through kind of it was by word of mouth, right? So this is really the first year, as of a year ago, where we really opened up to trying to just hire people that we'd never met before, or that people that were working for us had never met before. So it's kind of a new experience for me as well. But we kind of, oh, thank you. We get ourselves out there, we publicize. Honestly, the best way to, if you're interested, is to just get in contact with me right now, because when nobody else does hiring or firing, it falls back on you, right? So, yeah, if you have any, feel free to shoot me an email if you're interested in like job opportunities with us. We do, and we have taken interns on over the summer, so that is something we do. We don't take a whole ton of them on. But I would encourage you to not just look for. Here's what I would encourage you to do is, and what I can help you do is to find some of those other companies out there, because there's a lot of other companies like us that are really small companies that work in technology, that you're not going to, they're not, you know, they don't post everything all over the place. They don't have the resources to have full-time recruiters out there. Maybe they don't even have enough money to work with a recruiting firm or the time to necessarily reach out to career services sometimes, right? I think that you found me, right? I didn't find you per se. So working with Barbara was going to be very advantageous for you guys as well.
Well, thanks. You gave me a good lead on.
Yeah.
So I appreciate it. Let's give Matt a hand of applause.